Guys, I am just starting my drive home. Again, I made a video this morning on the way to work, and when I played it back once I got to work, there was no sound. So, I apologize that all these videos are in my lap, but my videos are mostly meant for listening anyway, so you're gonna have to bear with my funny face and being in my lap. So, what I had talked about this morning was that it was kind of an announcement, really. So like Wednesday or Thursday of last week, I want to say, my husband woke up early, and while I was getting ready for work, and came out and announced that he wanted to become vegan or plant-based as a way of eating. And I didn't really think much of it. Usually, sometimes he will say stuff like that, and it's, kind of a passing thing for the moment. But he had watched the documentary What the Health. If you haven't seen it, you can see it on YouTube. Why do I feel like my lights aren't on? So he had watched this documentary, which I watched several years ago, along with several others. My truck sounds funny. And gleaned the information that was given over several videos. I kind of ended up weeding out what didn't resonate with me. And with all things in life, you have to take what makes sense to you and leave the rest. Nothing is going to 100% align with you. That's just part of life. So definitely, if you decide to watch videos of that nature, definitely take what makes sense to you and leave the rest. So anyway, when I came home that night, I think he called and was talking about it still, and I don't think I talked to him Thursday. And then Friday, I was still up when he got home from work, I think, or it was Saturday morning. Regardless, he was watching documentaries and videos all weekend, and definitely seems to want to go plant-based, which, like I said, is a big change. When I met him, he ate, meat and Kraft sliced singles and drank soda and Monsters and all kinds of normal American diet stuff. I'm trying to decide if the road is icy. It got really sunny today, but it's dropped down to 22 degrees, so it might be icy. Anyway, so I have asked him to change his diet a little. I've more made suggestions that he generally chooses not to follow. But he does what he wants, he's a grown man. But, probably a decade or more, definitely over a decade ago, definitely, he was diagnosed as a diabetic, and so his diet did change some then, but it's kind of fluctuated over the years. And I've talked about in a previous video that a couple years back I put him on a keto diet for it was like 4 or 5 months at least. It might have been 6, but I think it was more like 4 or 5, where I was doing all the food preparing and portioning and prep, and it made huge changes in his numbers. He lost like 35 pounds. His A1C went from like 14 to 7, I think it was. His blood sugar went from, I had never seen it below 200 to 120, I think it was. I mean, his numbers just were insane. And I got excited when I found the keto diet because it was something that I could see him being willing to do. If I'd ever said the word vegan or plant-based prior to now, he would have laughed at me and made fun of me probably and said that I was a crazy hippie. So I never went to that extreme, but I knew that the keto diet sounded like it was definitely working for people. It was reversing diabetes. It was doing all these great things for people. Oh, I'm going under the speed limit. And, you know, talking about being able to eat all the cheese you want and all the meat you want and all the, you know, all these good, yummy sounding things. I was like, all right, he'll go for that. And he did. And, you know, it did at least prove to him that you can change how you feel and your health dramatically with diet. And that maybe that was the catalyst to where we find ourselves now. Because that was my hope, was to prove to him and show him with no doubt that you can change how you feel and how you are health-wise by your diet. So that fell off we fell off the bandwagon on that, mainly because I couldn't keep up with the meal prep and the portioning, and I was starting to feel like I was just making the same things over and over and over and over, and didn't really have the time to explore new things like I wanted to. There was probably several, not really flops in a row, but things that, unless you were eating it hot off the skillet, it just wasn't that good to me. So I think that played a part in it. But during that period, I was also working a job and a half. I was doing a full-time 8 to 10 hours plus 6 hours part-time, and doing all this meal prep and preparation and portioning on top of that. So it got to be way overwhelming. So he's kind of just done his own thing since then, which thankfully he had that base at least to go on, and had started getting more used to not eating as much carbs and kind of choosing better options. Well, recently it's gone back to the cheese slices and the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and back to, you know, really unhealthy choices. So consequently his health has taken a dive, and he's back on all his medications, which is super expensive every month, and not feeling well. And I think things have come to a head medically, where if he doesn't make a drastic change, he's going to have to go through drastic measures, basically. And that's what probably pushed him into even finding that video, I would say. And then once he saw it, there was just too many things he couldn't deny that it was a bit like he has started to awaken a little bit, which is super exciting for me, because I've been awakening for many years now, and I had just come to the conclusion that maybe some people are just not meant to get woken. Awaken, however you want to say that. And maybe it's just not something that everybody will do in their lifetime. I do consider myself an older soul than him, even though he's older than me in actual years. I consider him a much newer soul. He's still got a ways to go. Not that I'm so much far ahead of him, but I feel like I'm a couple lifetimes ahead of him. And as far as, you know, soul age goes, or however you want to phrase that. So anyway, where was I going? Oh yeah, so it's super exciting for me that there's starting to become some awareness of things outside of himself in that way. And he was like, yeah, well, will you do this with me? And I'm like, yeah, well, of course, 100%. If you're going to make a lifestyle change that is only going to make you better and healthier and stronger and probably happier, and I I get to have more years with you, absolutely, I will do this with you. I don't eat a lot of processed food myself. I've never done cheese slices. That's one of my pet peeves. I've probably talked about it in other videos because I think they're just disgusting. The texture is gross, the flavor is gross, and the combination literally gags me. I can't do it. They are actually 50% lard and 50% cheese product. So I don't know if you want to call that cheese or not. I don't call it cheese. So I never could eat those. And I was raised in a Seventh-day Adventist home where we were primarily vegetarian, although we did eat beef and chicken and some fish, but we couldn't eat any pork. We didn't do lamb. We didn't do anything exotic like alligator or shark. Shrimp. I think fish, for the criteria for fish is gills and scales. So anything without gills and scales, they didn't eat. I say we, but that's habit because I don't consider myself a Seventh-day Adventist by any means. So I was raised in that environment, and even though I have eaten pork over the years, bacon primarily, ham maybe once a year, and bacon really only maybe a total of like 10 times in a year, if that. And we're talking a slice or two. Pork chops maybe once or twice a year. So really not a lot of ham overall. Probably more pepperoni than ham because we eat a lot of pizza. But so other than that, my primary three meats have been fish. Sticking to like salmon and tilapia, and I do like some catfish stuff, walleye, stuff like that. I love pretty much any kind of beef and chicken, but I can only eat chicken, like chicken breast, non-breaded chicken breast. I would eat the skin if it came without the bone. But it doesn't. So primarily boneless, skinless chicken breast, because if I find a vein or I see a vein, I can't eat it. That even happens with a steak or a hamburger. If I see a piece of vein, like, I'm done. I'm not eating another bite of it. I can't. So that's why I don't eat meat on the bone. So yeah, I'm repeating myself a lot. Sorry, it's been a long day. Almost 11 hours at work plus my 2-hour commutes. So I don't eat primarily vegetables, but I have always said that, and I've probably said it in a video before, that if I ever got diagnosed with cancer, I would go strictly plant-based. I would only be eating vegetables of all kinds and maybe some fruit and nuts. I wouldn't be eating any breads, any grains, any meat whatsoever. And that would be probably in lieu of chemo and radiation. Depending on, of course it would depend on the circumstances, but I would definitely go that route long before I would say yes to chemo and radiation. So in saying that, when I said it this morning in the video, I was like, well, how funny is that I was saying if I ever got diagnosed with cancer, I would go that route. Well, why wait for cancer to go that route? Why not prevent a cancer by doing it now? Like, it doesn't, my logic was absolutely asinine when I think about it. So, there's another reason that I said yes. And I've always been a healthier eater than him anyway, for the most part, and I mostly gave up soda a year and a half ago. And I say mostly because I do still drink it, but it went from 24/7, I had a Mountain Dew in my hand, to maybe one a week, maybe two. If I'm really pushing it, 2 or 3 in a week, and that's mostly on the weekend. If if we're doing a lot of running around, I'll stop and get a Mountain Dew for the road. But other than that, I don't really drink it, thankfully. I honestly did not think I was going to be able to break that addiction. I was so addicted to it and craved it so hard at first, and had to force myself to not buy it, and had to negotiate and wean, and okay, you can have Mountain Dew, but only on the weekends. And that didn't even last very long before I would just not even think about it, and would go weekend and week out, and not have drank any. So I'm super excited that I was able to break that addiction, because soda is addicting. When you see people with these giant, huge, big gulps, and you know that they've probably had at least one that day and they're refilling, and you know, I can't tell you how many times I talk to people that are like, I have to have my Coke, I have to have my Pepsi, I have to, you know, or people like me that had Mountain Dew with them all the time. It's absolutely addictive, and they want it to be addictive. They formulate it to be addictive because that makes them money. So I'm not going to get on that rant, because I went on that rant this morning and I wasn't planning on going on that route. But in lieu of that, part of the reason that he has decided that he's okay with going plant-based is because in What the Health, you know, they kind of talk about mass meat production and what that looks like and what that is about. And as should anybody be, it's pretty disturbing to know that the industry and the government are backing something that is so disgusting, purely so they can make a buck. It's mind-blowing. It really is. And that alone, if I can do my part to not feed into their greed by stopping buying meat, then I will absolutely do that. Let's not forget that they're burning down the rainforest for this shit too. The Amazon rainforest. Anyway, I'm not going to go on that rant either. So he was like, you know, I'm an animal lover. I like animals. He was like, I can't know this and say I still love animals, because if I choose to eat meat, then I might as well say that I hate animals. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you know, it's one of those things. So that is where we are headed. It's going to take some getting used to, for sure, and it's going to take some focus, I guess you could say. I say that because every Monday we have a orientation lunch at my work that is provided for new people coming in, and all the supervisors and the training team. We all meet with the new person or new people and have lunch with them, and it's provided by Jimmy John's, which is, you know, a meat sandwich. I'm sure that I could ask for a veggie option to be added in, and that's probably the route I will go. I don't know. Maybe I should look at their menu and see what they have, and then I can ask the girls to order some of that for me. Or I just plan ahead and make sure that I always have lunch so that I don't have to worry about it. So we'll see how that goes. But it took me by surprise, because I got in line like I normally do, and I got up to the table and then looked at the sandwiches, and I was like, oh, uh-oh. Huh. And the person next to me was like, what? I was like, I'm supposed to be going plant-based, remember? And they were like, oh yeah. I'm like, I didn't think about that. So it'll definitely take some getting used to. Also, I am going to continue to use up what I have already paid for in the stores, the meat that I have in the fridge, and what unhealthy stuff I do have in the fridge, I am going to use up. I'm not going to throw that away, or I'm going to give it away. One of my coworkers offered to take my 3 packs of bacon off my hands. So I will gladly give those to her. As much as I would like to just cook it and eat it and use it that way, I'm not going to. So my husband was like, but it's bad. I was like, yeah, but I paid for it already. The money's already gone to the industries. You know, it's already been, that money has already been put in that coffer. I'm not going to now throw it away. I will figure out what to do with it as we go, but yeah, no, not throwing it away. So, like I was saying, it's going to take some getting used to and some planning and getting used to a whole new grocery list and meal planning and recipe discovering. I think one of the recipes I've used, well, there's probably a small handful of recipes that have been vegan. For instance, my cabbage soup, all I have to do is take the meat out of it, I believe. And probably the beef broth, I would probably use a vegetable broth instead. But everything else that I would put in there other than the meat should be vegan. It's all vegetables. So that is, you know, an easy fix for that. Yeah, there's plenty of options. What's great is that more and more people have been becoming vegan. And just like with keto, when keto first came out, I was not the first on the bandwagon. I was a little late to the party as usual. But when I did hit the party, there was not a lot of options at the grocery store for grass-fed beef and grass-fed butter and all of those things. And by the time it petered out for us and I was, you know, not doing it as much, there was lots of options in all the grocery stores. Walmart and all the local stores had started to carry it because guess what? There was a demand. So this all ties in together with me taking my money out of the meat producing industry. It's creating one or two less people that are in that part of the demand, and it might be throwing a starfish back in the ocean, but it still makes a difference. And little by little, it's going to make a bigger and bigger difference. And for instance, already in the dairy industry, they're starting to see big drops in milk purchases. So yeah, it's little by little as people are awakening and people are becoming aware of how disgusting this whole thing has become and how just immoral it's all become over the mighty dollar. It's the demand is going to get less and less for those things, and hopefully that means that the demand is going to get higher and higher for the right things, and the more demand there is, the more they will produce it. Wherever that money is where they're going to go. And they, you know, I don't know what they're going to do on the doctor end of the spectrum and the prescription end of the spectrum in that regard, but I don't really care, to be honest. I only go to the doctor when I absolutely have to, and generally it ends up being once a year or once every 2 years just to get a blood draw and see where I'm at. I'm almost 40 years old, and I have, as of, last year sometime, my cholesterol is good, my blood pressure is good, my blood sugars are good, I'm not pre-diabetic, I don't have asthma. The worst thing I probably have is, well, anxiety, but that's not really health related, that's all in my head. Not in that way, please don't take it that way, but it is centrally located in my head. My worst thing that I have to deal with is arthritis. And guess what? If I go on a plant-based diet and stop eating meat and cut out starches and reduce my sugar even further than it has been, and what else? My dairy, my inflammation is probably going to reduce to the point where I have no more arthritis issues, or very, very little. Arthritis runs in my family, like it really actually does run in my family, but that doesn't mean that I can't lessen the symptoms dramatically with diet, and I think that's an okay side effect. I'm okay with that. I will hopefully sleep and feel like I've slept, and my biggest concern has always been, especially when it comes to eating even healthier, that I'm going to lose more weight. And that's where I really struggle because, And please don't hate. It's not my fault that I'm not overweight. I would like to have more weight. I am one of those people on the other end of the spectrum that I don't want to be thinner. I am as thin as I want to get. And I'm hoping that I will plateau where I'm at. Because if I get any thinner, I might have to go to the doctor and find out if there's something else going on. I had started to gain some of the weight back, and I was pretty excited. I was like almost back up to 130, which is actually obese for my height. But I am okay with that because I'm comfortable at 130. I was 130 in 7th grade and for many, many years. So I was kind of excited that I had put a little bit of cushion back on. And I looked in the mirror once I took all my layers off from work and was just running around in my t-shirt and leggings, and I happened to see myself in the mirror as I went by, and I had to stop and look again, and I was like, holy cow, like, I'm getting smaller. I'm shrinking. So a concern for me is to be able to eat this way and not lose further weight. Actually, what I should do, and see, this is why I do videos, because talking out loud it helps me work stuff out. What I should do is focus on getting our exercise area set up so that I can build some muscle, because that's probably why I've shrunk back down. Now that I'm saying it, is because I have been off the floor for the last couple months, so I haven't been doing the same physical exertion. Therefore, the muscle that I had gained, which was actually a fair amount, has probably now died away and gone back into my body and burned up. So that's probably why I'm shrinking, is because I lost all my muscle mass. Sigh. But on the plus side, if I can get my butt organized and get an exercise area set up in the garage or our extra bedroom, which that's not going to happen, I can build some of that muscle back up. And on top of that, I know that when I was taking care of my mom, she was still heavily in the Seventh-day Adventist community. Oh, that was a little tiny deer, I think. And a lot of the church members were bringing us food. And at one point, I think I had 6 dishes made with lentils in the fridge. And so she couldn't eat at that point due to her condition. And I think her husband was eating some of it, but not much. And my daughter wasn't really around to eat much of it, so it was primarily on me to try to eat as much of it as possible so it didn't go to waste. And I gained 20 pounds real quick. So I'm guessing if I just maybe make a few more lentil dishes for myself, or if I make a lentil dish for my husband and I eat more of it than him, or portion out more of it for him than me, then I might be okay. So yeah, it's a tricky business because I have to prepare in a way for him, or plan in a way for him that he's going to be losing weight, which is where he is at, and in a way for me that means I can maintain or gain a little bit of weight, and then maintain for me. So, it's kind of complex, but the main point of this video was to just let you all know that this is the journey we're starting currently, and so that I can document it along the way. And there's still some really icy patches on the road, and they really scare me. And feedback or no feedback on this one. If you're interested in knowing more, then absolutely research it for yourself. I don't see how going plant-based could be a bad thing. I can't think of a reason it would be bad. A lot of people say, oh, how are you going to get your protein, which is stated a lot in these videos. And you can get plenty of protein from plants. So if you're interested in it, please look it up. There's tons of information about it, and it's all readily and freely available on YouTube. And it'll be a fun journey. So I'm going to end the video here, And I will talk to y'all later. I hope everybody has a great week. Today is Monday, by the way, February 10, 2020. And Valentine's Day is coming up. I did get a card for my husband, but nothing other than that so far. I'm still planning on what to do for that. So I hope everybody has a great week and a great Valentine's Day. And these curves are scaring me. And I'm going to go. So, talk to y'all later.